Have you ever wondered why some people seem fine on the surface, yet their health suddenly collapses a few years later, while others stay strong and independent well into old age? That difference rarely comes from luck. It usually begins much earlier, with quiet signals the body sends long before a diagnosis appears. The problem is that most people never learn how to recognize those signals, or they brush them off as just getting older, when in reality, the body is asking for help. Aging itself is not a disease. Research is very clear on this. The body is designed to adapt and function well for many decades. What causes trouble is not age, but the slow accumulation of stress, poor recovery, inflammation, and metabolic strain. These changes do not happen overnight. They build silently. That is why the earliest signs of very poor health often feel mild, vague, or easy to ignore. You may still be able to work, walk, and manage daily life, but inside, important systems are already losing resilience. Modern health research shows that serious conditions like heart disease, type 2 diabetes, cognitive decline, and frailty do not start when symptoms become obvious. They often develop 10 or even 20 years earlier. During this time, the body sends early warnings through energy levels, movement quality, sleep patterns, and mental clarity. These warnings are not dramatic, they are subtle. And because they are subtle, they are dangerous when misunderstood. One of the biggest myths about aging is that feeling tired, stiff, slower, or mentally dull is inevitable. Large population studies on healthy aging consistently show that people who maintain good metabolic health, muscle strength, circulation, and sleep quality often report high energy and stable mood well into later life. This means that when decline shows up early, it is not normal aging. It is a sign that something is off in the body's internal balance. The body always prioritizes survival. When resources are strained, it quietly redirects energy away from long-term repair and towards short-term function. You may not feel pain, you may not feel sick, but repair slows down. Inflammation increases. Hormonal signals weaken. Muscles lose efficiency. The brain becomes less flexible. These changes do not announce themselves loudly. They whisper first. Ignoring these whispers is what leads to sudden health shocks later on. A fall that takes months to recover from. Blood sugar that suddenly spikes. Blood pressure that quietly damages blood vessels for years. Memory problems that seem to appear out of nowhere. In reality, the groundwork was laid long before. The good news is that the early phase is also the most reversible. The body responds remarkably well when stress is reduced and proper support is restored early enough. By understanding the early signs of very poor health, you gain a powerful advantage. You move from reacting to disease to preventing it. You stop guessing and start observing your body with clarity. This is not about fear. It is about awareness. Awareness is what allows people to age with strength instead of fragility, clarity instead of confusion, and independence instead of limitation. If you stay with me until the end of this video, you will walk away with a clear understanding of what your body may already be telling you, and why paying attention now can save you years of struggle later. These signs are not opinions. They are patterns consistently seen in clinical research and long-term health studies. Once you know them, you cannot unknow them. And that knowledge may be one of the most valuable tools you ever give yourself as you age. Once you understand that the body whispers before it screams, the next step is learning how those whispers show up in everyday physical changes. One of the earliest and most reliable warning signs of declining health is a gradual loss of strength. This does not mean sudden weakness. It often appears as struggling to carry groceries that once felt light, needing more effort to stand up from a chair, or avoiding stairs without consciously realizing why. Research on aging consistently shows that muscle loss accelerates when the body is under metabolic or inflammatory stress, and this process begins years before it becomes obvious. Muscle is not just for movement. It regulates blood sugar, supports hormones, protects joints, and stabilizes the immune system. When strength fades early, it signals deeper imbalance. Another common sign is persistent fatigue that does not improve with rest. This type of tiredness feels different from normal end of day exhaustion. Sleep may be long enough, yet energy remains low. Studies link this pattern to impaired mitochondrial function, chronic low grade inflammation, and poor glucose regulation. The body is still producing energy, but it is doing so inefficiently. Over time, this drains resilience and increases disease risk. Fatigue is often dismissed as stress or age, but biologically, it is a message that energy systems are under strain. Changes in body weight without clear reason are another early clue. Slow weight gain, especially around the waist, reflects worsening insulin sensitivity and hormonal shifts. Unintentional weight loss can signal muscle breakdown, nutrient absorption issues, or chronic inflammation. Both patterns are associated with higher mortality risk as people age. The key point is not appearance, but regulation. A healthy body tends to maintain weight stability. When that stability is lost without explanation, the body is signaling that its internal controls are slipping. Joint stiffness that increases over time is often blamed on wear and tear, but healthy joints are designed to move smoothly for decades. Research shows that chronic stiffness is more closely tied to inflammation, poor circulation, and muscle weakness than to age itself. When joints feel tight in the morning or after sitting, it suggests that tissues are not recovering properly. Reduced movement then feeds the cycle, accelerating decline. The stiffness is not the root problem. It is the symptom of systems losing their ability to repair. Balance changes and slower walking speed are powerful indicators that rarely get enough attention. Large studies in older adults show that walking speed alone predicts survival, cognitive health, and independence better than many lab tests. When gait slows or balance feels uncertain, it often reflects combined decline in muscle strength, nerve signaling, vision processing, and cardiovascular function. These systems fail together, not separately. Early balance issues are not just about falls, they are about coordination between the brain and the body beginning to weaken. Posture changes also carry important information. A gradual forward lean, rounded shoulders, or a stiff neck may seem cosmetic, but posture reflects muscle balance, spinal health, and nervous system tone. Poor posture compresses the chest, limits oxygen intake, and increases strain on the heart and lungs. Over time, it contributes to reduced stamina and higher cardiovascular risk. When posture changes early, it usually means the body is compensating for weakness elsewhere. Another sign that often goes unnoticed is reduced tolerance for physical activity. Tasks that once felt easy now feel demanding, even if they are still possible. This decline points to reduced cardiovascular efficiency and oxygen delivery. The heart and blood vessels adapt well when they are supported, but they also lose capacity quietly when stress and inactivity accumulate. Shortness of breath during mild effort is not a normal feature of healthy aging. It is an early alert. What makes these physical signs so important is that they rarely appear alone. They cluster. Strength fades alongside stamina. Stiffness appears alongside fatigue. Balance shifts alongside posture changes. This clustering reflects whole body decline, not isolated problems. Medical research emphasizes that early functional changes predict chronic disease better than single symptoms. The body functions as an integrated system, and when one part struggles, others soon follow. The encouraging truth is that these signs are not permanent states. The same studies that identify early decline also show that targeted improvements in movement, nutrition, sleep, and metabolic health can restore function even later in life. The body retains an impressive capacity to adapt when it is supported properly. The danger lies only in ignoring the signals long enough that damage becomes harder to reverse. Why these signs matter and what science confirms. As these outward physical changes begin to appear, they are often driven by deeper internal signals that cannot be seen but can certainly be felt. The body's internal systems tend to decline quietly, and because there is often no sharp pain involved, people assume everything is fine. In reality, many of the most dangerous age related conditions develop during this silent phase, when damage accumulates slowly inside the body. One of the earliest internal warnings comes from digestion. Frequent bloating, gas, irregular bowel movements, or a feeling of heaviness after meals are not harmless inconveniences. Research shows that gut health plays a central role in inflammation, immunity, and even brain function. As the gut becomes less efficient, nutrient absorption declines, harmful bacteria can dominate, and low grade inflammation increases throughout the body. This internal stress affects muscles, joints, blood vessels, and the brain long before any disease is diagnosed. Blood sugar regulation is another system that often weakens early. You may notice stronger cravings for sweets, energy crashes after meals, or feeling sleepy shortly after eating. These signs point toward reduced insulin sensitivity, which is one of the strongest predictors of accelerated aging. Long-term studies consistently show that poor blood sugar control damages blood vessels, nerves, kidneys, and the brain, even before diabetes develops. The body may still keep blood sugar within acceptable ranges, but it does so at a growing cost. Blood pressure is often called a silent threat, for a reason. Many people feel perfectly normal while elevated pressure slowly strains the heart and stiffens arteries. Subtle signs such as headaches, lightheadedness, or a pounding sensation in the chest during stress can reflect early vascular stress. Healthy blood vessels are flexible and responsive. When they begin to lose elasticity, circulation becomes less efficient, increasing the risk of heart disease, stroke, and cognitive decline later in life. Circulation problems can also show up as cold hands and feet, numbness, or tingling. These sensations indicate that blood flow is no longer being distributed efficiently. Aging research links poor circulation to endothelial dysfunction, where blood vessels fail to respond properly to the body's needs. This affects oxygen delivery to muscles and organs, contributing to fatigue, weakness, and slower healing. The body may compensate for years, but the strain adds up. Another internal sign that deserves attention is shortness of breath during activities that were once easy. This is not just about lung capacity. It reflects how well the heart, blood vessels, blood cells, and muscles work together to deliver oxygen. When this system becomes less efficient, the body tires quickly. Studies show that reduced cardiorespiratory fitness strongly predicts mortality and loss of independence. Early breathlessness is a message that the system is underperforming. The immune system also sends early warnings. Frequent colds, infections that linger, or slow recovery from illness suggest weakened immune resilience. As immune function declines, the body becomes less effective at clearing damaged cells and controlling inflammation. This creates a fertile environment for chronic disease. Research in immunology shows that immune aging begins earlier than most people realize, especially when sleep, nutrition, and metabolic health are compromised. Fluid balance and kidney function can shift subtly as well. Swelling in the ankles, changes in urination patterns, or darker urine may point to declining filtration efficiency or dehydration stress. The kidneys play a crucial role in blood pressure regulation, mineral balance, and toxin removal. When they are strained, the effects ripple through the entire body. What makes these internal signals particularly dangerous is that they often appear normal to the person experiencing them. They develop gradually, allowing the mind to adapt and normalize the discomfort. But the body does not forget. Each imbalance adds to the overall burden, pushing systems closer to failure. Medical research repeatedly shows that people who address internal dysfunction early experience far better outcomes than those who wait for a clear diagnosis. These internal signs also tend to reinforce one another. Poor digestion worsens blood sugar control. Blood sugar instability increases inflammation. Inflammation damages blood vessels. Compromised circulation weakens the brain and muscles. This interconnected decline explains why health can unravel quickly once a tipping point is reached. The body is not failing randomly, it is following a predictable pattern. The hopeful reality is that internal systems are highly responsive when supported early. Improvements in diet quality, physical activity, sleep, and stress regulation have been shown to restore insulin sensitivity, improve circulation, strengthen immunity, and reduce inflammation, even in older adults. The body is not fragile by design. It becomes fragile when signals are ignored for too long. Why these signs matter and what science confirms. When internal systems are under strain, the brain is often one of the first places where decline becomes noticeable. Changes in thinking, mood, and sleep are not separate from physical health. They are direct reflections of what is happening inside the body. The brain depends on steady blood flow, balanced hormones, stable blood sugar, and low inflammation. When any of these are disrupted, mental clarity is affected long before serious disease is diagnosed. One early signal is subtle memory change. This is not about occasionally forgetting a name and remembering it later. It feels more like information slipping away faster than it used to, or needing more effort to focus and recall details. Research on cognitive aging shows that these changes often coincide with reduced glucose metabolism in the brain and early vascular changes. The brain is still functioning, but it is working harder to do the same tasks, which leads to mental fatigue. Brain fog is another warning that should not be ignored. It often feels like thinking through a haze, struggling to concentrate, or needing more time to process information. This state is closely linked to inflammation, poor sleep quality, and unstable blood sugar. Studies consistently show that chronic low-grade inflammation interferes with neurotransmitter function and neural communication. The result is slower thinking and reduced mental flexibility, even in people who appear otherwise healthy. Sleep changes are among the most overlooked signs of declining health. Difficulty falling asleep, frequent night waking, or waking unrefreshed are not harmless inconveniences. Sleep is the time when the brain clears waste products, repairs neural connections, and resets emotional regulation. When sleep becomes fragmented, these processes are interrupted. Long-term research links poor sleep quality to higher risks of dementia, cardiovascular disease, obesity, and depression. The body can cope with short-term sleep disruption, but chronic disturbance accelerates aging across every system. Mood shifts often follow close behind. A persistent low mood, loss of motivation, or emotional flatness may be dismissed as stress or life circumstances, but biologically, these states are often tied to changes in brain chemistry and hormonal balance. Reduced physical activity, inflammation, and poor sleep all lower the availability of neurotransmitters involved in mood regulation. This is why depression and anxiety are not just psychological experiences, they are deeply connected to physical health. Increased irritability or anxiety can also signal that the nervous system is under strain. When the body remains in a state of low-level stress for long periods, the stress response becomes overactive. This affects heart rate, digestion, and immune function, while keeping the brain in a constant state of alert. Over time, this leads to emotional volatility and difficulty relaxing. Research shows that chronic activation of stress pathways accelerates biological aging and increases disease risk. Another important sign is reduced mental resilience. Situations that were once manageable now feel overwhelming. Recovery from emotional stress takes longer. This reflects reduced adaptability of the nervous system. Healthy brains are flexible. They respond and recover. When flexibility declines, it suggests that underlying support systems such as sleep, nutrition, and circulation are compromised. Sensory changes can also be early clues. Diminished sense of smell, changes in vision processing, or increased sensitivity to noise are linked to early neurological and vascular changes. These shifts often precede more obvious cognitive decline by many years. The brain's sensory systems are highly sensitive to blood flow and metabolic health, making them early indicators of trouble. What ties these brain related signs together is that they rarely occur in isolation. Poor sleep worsens mood, low mood reduces physical activity, reduced activity impairs blood sugar control and circulation. Impaired circulation affects brain function. This creates a feedback loop that slowly erodes cognitive and emotional health. Research into aging consistently emphasizes that brain decline is not inevitable, but it is strongly influenced by lifestyle and metabolic factors. The encouraging reality is that the brain retains remarkable plasticity. Studies show that improvements in sleep quality, physical movement, social engagement, and metabolic health can enhance cognitive function even later in life. The brain responds quickly when its basic needs are met. Clarity can return, mood can stabilize, sleep can deepen. These are not miracles. They are biological responses to proper support. Ignoring early brain and mood signals allows the cycle to continue unchecked. Paying attention creates the opportunity to intervene while change is still possible. Awareness alone shifts behavior, and behavior shifts biology. This is why recognizing these signs early is so powerful. They are not predictions of decline, they are invitations to act. Why these signs matter and what science confirms. By the time these physical, internal, and cognitive signals appear, it becomes clear why paying attention early is so critical. Every system in the body is interconnected, and when one area begins to falter, others soon follow. Ignoring these warning signs allows subtle dysfunction to grow into serious health problems. Chronic inflammation, impaired circulation, hormonal imbalance, and metabolic strain quietly intensify, increasing the risk of heart disease, diabetes, joint degeneration, and cognitive decline. The patterns are predictable, and research repeatedly confirms that early recognition is the most powerful tool to prevent long-term damage. One of the strongest indicators of future health problems is the clustering of these signs. Experiencing fatigue alongside joint stiffness, balance changes, or memory lapses is not coincidental. Large-scale studies on aging consistently show the